There is a profound silence that exists in the world. It is not the silence of an empty room, but the quiet, enduring stillness of an ancient forest that has weathered countless storms. This is the inner landscape of the rarest mind among us. People often look at these individuals and see only an endless well of patience, a gentle smile, and a heart that seems capable of absorbing the sorrows of the entire world. They are the listeners in a society that never stops shouting. They are the healers who walk quietly through the chaotic streets of modern life, offering forgiveness like water to the thirsty. You might know them as the quiet friend, the devoted partner, or the colleague who always seems to understand the unspoken pain in the room. But there is a profound misconception about this boundless compassion. Society often mistakes a gentle nature for a lack of boundaries. They assume that because this person forgives easily, they will tolerate anything. But today, we are going to explore the hidden architecture of a truly, deeply feeling soul. We will uncover the invisible lines drawn in the sand, the boundaries that, once crossed, trigger an irrevocable departure. To understand this mind is to understand the concept of a sanctuary. Imagine a grand, historic library, carefully constructed over a lifetime. Every book on the shelf represents a memory, a shared vulnerability, a moment of fragile trust. The keeper of this library is incredibly selective about who is allowed inside. They do not demand perfection from their guests. They know that human beings are flawed, messy, and prone to making mistakes. If you accidentally drop a book, they will help you pick it up. If you stumble in the dark, they will light a candle for you. But the moment you intentionally set fire to the pages, the dynamic shifts entirely. There will be no screaming match. There will be no theatrical display of rage. The keeper will simply show you the door, lock it behind you, and you will never be granted entry again. This sudden, silent excommunication is often deeply confusing to those left on the outside. They wonder where the endless forgiveness went. They fail to realize that true compassion requires a foundation of absolute respect. When that foundation is shattered, the quiet soul does not fight to rebuild it with the person who swung the hammer. This psychological resilience is not unlike the history of a great nation rising from the ashes of a devastating conflict. Think of a city completely leveled by war, its bridges broken, its people left with nothing but the freezing winter wind. Yet, through sheer unyielding determination, they rebuild. They create a miracle upon the river, a towering metropolis of light and strength. The deeply feeling individual operates with this exact same spirit of profound resilience. They have likely survived emotional winters that would break most people. They have rebuilt their inner world from the ground up, placing every brick with care. Because they know the agonizing cost of this reconstruction, they are fiercely protective of their peace. They will not allow anyone to bring the chaos of war back into their newly built sanctuary. They cherish harmony, but they will never sacrifice their own emotional survival to keep someone else comfortable. Today, we delve into the 6 absolute deal breakers, the non-negotiable boundaries that protect this beautifully constructed inner world. The very first and perhaps most vital boundary is the absolute intolerance for deception. Truth is the currency of connection for these intuitive souls. They do not ask for a flawless resume of your life. They do not demand that you hide your ugly truths. In fact, they are the very people who will sit with you in the darkest corners of your shame and hold your hand. But what they absolutely require is authenticity. When a lie is introduced into the ecosystem of the relationship, it acts like a drop of ink in a glass of pure water. It alters the entire composition. Deception? Whether it is a massive betrayal or a small, calculated omission of truth, is never just a mistake in their eyes. It is an intentional distortion of reality. It is an insult to the sacred trust they have so carefully extended. What makes this dynamic truly fascinating is the powerful mechanism of human intuition. The quiet observer possesses an internal radar that is almost unnervingly accurate. They do not need to check your phone or interrogate you to know that something is wrong. They read the subtle shifts in the air. They notice the slight change in the cadence of your voice. They see the micro expressions that flash across your face for a fraction of a second. They feel the energetic distance before the logical brain can even articulate it. When you lie to them, a profound cognitive dissonance begins to echo in their mind. Their body feels the untruth long before the evidence arrives. At first, they might try to silence this alarm. They might extend the benefit of the doubt, hoping that their intuition is merely a shadow of overthinking. But the alarm does not stop. It pulses, steady and relentless, until the truth finally breaks the surface. Once the lie is confirmed, a fundamental shift occurs. The tragedy of this moment is that there is rarely an explosive confrontation. The deeply intuitive person simply reorganizes their entire perception of who you are. The image of you they held in their heart shatters, and they do not try to glue the pieces back together. They recognize that if you can manipulate reality to protect yourself or to control a narrative, you are no longer a safe harbor. You become an unpredictable storm. They might still sit across from you at the dinner table. They might still exchange polite greetings in the office corridor. But the soul connection is permanently severed. The drawbridge is raised, the heavy wooden doors are bolted shut, and you are quietly, systematically locked out of their inner world forever. The second boundary involves the slow, insidious poison of repeated disrespect and emotional neglect. This is not about grandiose displays of cruelty. It is about the death of a relationship by 1,000 tiny, almost invisible cuts. The deeply empathetic soul does not require a pedestal. They do not need a daily chorus of praise. What they require is the quiet dignity of mutual respect. Disrespect often masquerades as casual behavior. It is the friend who constantly interrupts them when they finally gather the courage to speak. It is the partner who rolls their eyes at their deep philosophical thoughts. It is the family member who treats their emotional needs as a dramatic inconvenience. Individually, these moments might seem insignificant, but to an observant mind, they are heavy stones dropped into a calm pond, sending destructive ripples through the entire foundation of the bond. Empaths are notorious for keeping a silent emotional ledger. This is not out of a desire for vengeance or a petty need to keep score. It is a protective mechanism. When they continuously pour water into a garden that never yields a single flower, they begin to notice the barren soil. Emotional neglect is a profoundly painful experience for someone who gives so freely. Imagine being the person who drops everything to answer a late-night phone call, the one who remembers every allergy, every fear, and every dream of the people they love. Now imagine the agonizing silence when that same person is standing in the rain, looking for a single umbrella, and no one arrives. The disparity between what they give and what they receive becomes a heavy, suffocating blanket. They will make excuses for you for a long time. They will blame your stressful job or your difficult childhood, but the ledger does not lie. There is a specific day, a specific hour, when the scales finally tip. The emotional bank account reaches zero. On this day, the quiet soul does not demand a repayment plan. They simply stop investing. They stop sending the check-in text messages. They stop asking about your day with that genuine spark of curiosity in their eyes. They stop trying to bridge the gap that you created. Society often labels this withdrawal as sudden or cold, but the truth is, the departure happened slowly, over months or even years of unmet needs. By the time they physically walk away, their spirit has been gone for a very long time. They realize that allowing themselves to be continually neglected is an act of self-betrayal, and they will never betray themselves to keep you comfortable. The third non-negotiable boundary is the absolute rejection of public humiliation and the stripping of dignity. We all carry a sacred sense of self-worth, but for the highly sensitive and introspective individual, this dignity is the very armor that protects their soft heart from a harsh world. They are fundamentally private people. They curate what they share with the outside world with the precision of a museum director. Therefore, when someone takes an intimate detail, a shared secret, or a vulnerable trait and parades it in front of an audience for a cheap laugh, it is viewed as an unforgivable act of emotional violence. The intent of the joke does not matter. The claim that it was just a bit of fun holds absolutely no weight. Imagine the visceral shock of walking naked into a crowded room. That is the psychological equivalent of public shame for the private soul. When a partner belittles them at a dinner party, or a boss condescends to them in a meeting, a profound internal freeze occurs. Their face might remain composed. They might even force a polite, hollow laugh to survive the excruciating moment. But inside, a heavy iron gate is slamming shut. They view this behavior as a gross misuse of power and a fundamental lack of character. If you are willing to use their vulnerability as a weapon to elevate your own social status, you have proven yourself to be a dangerous entity. The aftermath is a chilling silence. They will never allow you to be close enough to their soft underbelly to strike again. The trust is not just broken, it is incinerated. The fourth violation strikes at the very core of their generous nature. It is the realization of being used. Naturally empathetic people are the ultimate facilitators of the human experience. They are the ones who stay late to help you finish a project, the ones who act as your free therapist during a crisis, the ones who quietly pay the bill when you are struggling. They do this without seeking a parade in their honor. Their joy comes from the act of elevating others. However, this beautiful trait makes them a prime target for those who walk through life taking without ever looking back. The dynamic starts subtly. A small favor here, a borrowed hour there. But slowly, the relationship morphs into a parasitic exchange. The deep thinker has a remarkable capacity to observe human behavior. They begin to notice the pattern. They realize that your phone calls only ever arrive when you are engulfed in a crisis. They see that the coworker who praises their brilliance never mentions their name to the management. They feel the heavy, dragging exhaustion that settles into their bones after spending time with you. This exhaustion is not physical. It is the depletion of the soul. It is the painful awakening to the fact that they are not a cherished friend or a valued partner. They are simply a utility, a machine designed to dispense comfort, solutions, and energy. When a human being realizes they are being treated as an object of convenience, a profound grief takes hold, followed quickly by a cold, sharp clarity. When the decision is made to cut the cord, it is absolute. They do not stage an intervention to inform you of your selfish nature. They know that a person who lacks the self-awareness to see their own taking will not suddenly wake up because of a lecture. Instead, they implement a quiet, devastating withdrawal of all resources. The endless well of empathy dries up overnight. The late-night advice ceases. The eager willingness to help vanishes into thin air. The taker is often left standing in the dark, wondering why the lights went out. They might reach out, feigning innocence, asking what went wrong. But the quiet soul feels no obligation to explain the obvious. They simply fade into the background, taking their golden energy with them, leaving the user to finally face their own reflection. The fifth boundary protects against the chaotic storm of emotional inconsistency. To a mind that values deep connection, emotional stability is the lighthouse that guides them safely to shore. They are not afraid of heavy emotions. They will gladly navigate through your sorrow, your anxiety, or your fear, as long as you are holding the map with them. What they absolutely cannot tolerate is the maddening game of mixed signals. A person who is intensely passionate and present on Monday, but completely cold and distant on Wednesday, creates an environment of psychological terror. This push and pull dynamic forces the empathetic soul to become hypervigilant, constantly analyzing the wind direction to predict the next emotional hurricane. Living in a state of constant translation is exhausting. The deeply intuitive person begins to ask themselves a million questions. Did I say something wrong? Did the tone of my voice cause this retreat? This internal interrogation drains their life force. Eventually, they realize that they are playing a game with rules that constantly change. They detest manipulation, and they view emotional inconsistency as a profound form of emotional control. True love, true friendship, does not require you to constantly earn your right to feel safe. The moment they realize they are on an emotional roller coaster, they calmly unbuckle their seatbelt and step off the ride. They will choose the lonely, quiet peace of solitude over the chaotic, unpredictable presence of an inconsistent heart every single time. The final, and perhaps most tragic boundary, is the enduring pain of invalidation. The quiet soul processes the world differently. They feel the tragedy of the evening news in their chest. They see the poetry in a falling leaf. Their inner world is a vast, complicated, and breathtakingly beautiful place. Because they know that society often misunderstands this depth, they guard it fiercely. When they finally choose to open the gates and share their complex thoughts or heavy emotions with you, they are offering you the highest honor they can bestow. It is a moment of profound vulnerability. To meet this vulnerability with dismissal is to crush the very essence of who they are. When they express a fear, and you quickly tell them they are just being too sensitive. When they share a dream, and you laugh at its impracticality. When they voice a hurt, and you aggressively tell them to just get over it. You are not simply disagreeing with them. You are erasing their reality. You are telling them that their internal compass is broken, and that their feelings are a nuisance. This repeated invalidation teaches the deep thinker a brutal lesson. It teaches them that their authentic self is too much for you to handle. To survive, they begin to amputate parts of their personality. They shrink themselves to fit into the tiny box of your comfort zone. But this cannot last forever. One day, the suppression becomes unbearable. They decide that they would rather be completely misunderstood by strangers than invisible to the person sitting right next to them. The emotional bridge collapses, and they retreat back into the safety of their own mind, taking their beautiful, complex world with them. The departure of a profoundly empathetic person is a masterclass in quiet dignity. There are no screaming matches in the driveway. There are no hateful text messages sent in the middle of the night. There is only a chilling, absolute silence. This is the phenomenon often referred to as the door slam. It is not an act of malice, nor is it a punishment designed to make you suffer. It is the ultimate act of emotional self-preservation. They have calculated the cost of staying, and they have found that the price is their own soul. The tragedy is that this departure is almost always entirely preventable. It is the result of ignored warnings, overlooked boundaries, and a fundamental failure to honor the sacred space between two human beings. Once the door is shut, the locks are changed permanently. The energy they once poured into you is redirected into their own healing, into rebuilding the sanctuary you tried to tear down. If you are someone who carries this profound depth, know that your boundaries are not a sign of coldness. They are the magnificent walls that protect the beautiful garden of your spirit. Never apologize for refusing to tolerate deception, disrespect, or the agonizing pain of being unseen. Your silence is a powerful declaration of your worth. And if you are fortunate enough to have one of these quiet, deeply feeling souls in your life, handle their heart with the utmost care. Listen to what they are not saying. Respect the invisible lines they draw. Honor their truth, meet their consistency, and never make them feel foolish for caring so deeply. If you can do this, you will earn a loyalty that most people only read about in stories. But if you take their grace for granted, remember this: the ocean is incredibly beautiful and calm. But if you disrespect its power, it will swallow you whole and leave no trace behind.